And I applaud you as well for joining us today. My name is Ingrid. I am the Chief Program Officer at Gwen's Girls, and I have been a licensed clinician and therapist for almost 20 years, and I've been doing work in the nonprofit community sector for a little over 25, close to 27. So I've been around a while, and I consider myself lucky, fortunate, and blessed to be able to do the things that I do with the people that we work with here at Gwen's Girls. So what we want to talk about today, we're going to go ahead and share our screen and share our PowerPoint and just kind of jump right in. One of the hot topics that we've been hearing about a lot at Gwen's Girls, not only with our families, but in the communities that we serve as well, is how do we navigate, how do we negotiate this mother-daughter relationship, parent-to-child relationship, period. But specifically, we're going to focus today on that mommy and me, or that mother-daughter relationship. Some folks mentioned already just when we did our feelings check-in. I want to know about how to navigate this for myself and my own daughter. Myself and Miss Kelly are both parents and are raising daughters, or have raised daughters as well. So part of that personal experience will be part of the presentation as well. So again, we're talking about strengthening those relationships, and you can go ahead and advance the next slide. When our children come into our lives as parents, we understand that they are the most important individual, the most important person in our life, right? And so the first time you became a mom, what was that feeling? What was that experience? What did it feel like for you? How did it make you feel? We have friends and coworkers who are, expecting their first child, and we were just talking about that whole nesting feeling, getting ready, right? Like getting the nursery ready, getting the clothing ready, getting all of the things ready and in order for the arrival of your little one. So parenting is a huge, huge task. It's a huge undertaking. We become responsible for our life. And we're doing the very best in most cases, unless there are other underlying mental health conditions. In most cases, and even in that case, people do the very best that they can with what they have available to them. In most cases, again, except if there's some kind of pathology, in most cases, we are excited to be the bearers of life so that we can help to mold, shape, and direct our future and help that person to become the best person that they can become. And so we are excited about that process. So again, for the most part, parents want to do the very best that we can do. So I want to talk now about some very general parenting styles, and this is very general information, and see where you see yourself on here. Again, you can go ahead and advance the slide. So the first one that we'll talk about is gentle parenting, and find yourself in here. I found myself earlier today when I was doing this, and I was a little bit surprised. So I'm interested to see where you find yourselves. But gentle parenting, we focus on compassion, respect, trust, right? It's more about engaging through empathy and less about authoritarian. My mother had this thing that she would always say, because I said so, or because I'm the mother. So there was no questioning who she was or what she said or what was happening afterwards. She said it, she was the mom, she was the authority, that was the end of it. Then that takes us to our next style, which is that authoritarian style. Very high standards, right? But we also, with that authoritarian style or authoritative style, you have the high standard, but you also have the courage and the patience to help that young person walk out that standard. So it's not the just because I said so, do it, figure it out, I don't care, get it done. It's not that. It's this is the authority, this is the order, and this is how I'm going to help you reach that standard. This is why it's important to go to school. This is why it's important to finish the fourth grade. This is why it's important that we show up on time for whatever it is that they're engaged in. So this is the standard. And then I'm also going to explain the why behind it, and I'm going to help you get there, right? So if we got to be at cheer or football at 5 o'clock, and I get home from work at 3, I'm going to make sure that I do what I need to do so that I can have the child where they're supposed to be at 4. So it's setting the standard, and it's also helping that young person to reach that standard. There's also a permissive style, right? And what we mean by permissive is there are no rules that are enforced. Figure it out however you do it. Okay, that's what you want to wear to school today. That's how you want to get up. That's what you want to eat. You want to just eat ketchup packets all, go ahead, no worries. Right. And so with that, what comes to that is we wait for the child to experience whatever natural consequences come. So if you allow your little one to eat ketchup all day and nothing else but ketchup, eventually they're going to have a stomach ache. And so what the permissive parenting style does is like, okay, well, Once you get that stomach ache, you're going to learn, right? You're going to learn today. You'll never try that again. So there are no guardrails really. We don't necessarily enforce rules. We just allow children to experience, and the boundaries are very loose. We allow them to experience whatever it is. I use ketchup packets. Unfortunately, raising daughters, it could be sexual promiscuity. It could be sexual partners. Go ahead, do what you do. But the first time you get that STD, don't come back crying to me, because it's a natural consequence, right, of behavior. And it could also be something, you could have a child that's very driven and, stays up till 2 o'clock in the morning studying for a test. Go ahead, you're getting all A's, but when you have that, nervous breakdown, or we don't really know how to negotiate or deal with people, don't say anything to me about it. That's a natural consequence of the behavior that we have. So it could be anything in there, right? And that permissive parenting just kind of allows the natural consequences to parent or to guard or to provide instruction, as opposed to us stepping in as parents with our experience and our know-how and our know better to then guide the child's expectation and experience as well. Again, the authoritarian piece we talked about is a little bit like authoritative, but remember the difference. With authoritative, I'm providing guidance as well. With authoritarian parenting styles, I said it, I meant it. Don't ask me no questions. Just do it. So there's less guidance, and the punishments are more harsh. The attachment style, this starts from when the child is in the womb, right? The way that we carry during our pregnancy, the way that we engage with life, with our partner, with the baby, even while they're in the womb, from how we then begin to prepare for that child, again, while still in the womb, to then walking out the natural stages of development with that young person. So that's what attachment looks like. And there's a whole school or a whole theory on attachment style parenting. These things I think are relatively new in the last 5 to 10 years, and then we'll move on. But free range parenting, again, allowing that independence to foster, kind of sort of like permissive, but there is some supervision still, but it's a little bit less. And again, using natural life consequences to teach the lessons. The panda parent is something that was new to me. And it comes from just a literal panda animal, their parenting style, which is still thoughtful. And we try to encourage our children to make thoughtful choices. So there's some gentle guidance, but it's also hands off. Right. So we stick to the rules, we understand what the rules are, and then just kind of let the little one play within those boundaries. And then the helicopter parent, which we've heard before, but you're over involved. We're over involved. We're doing too much. We're parenting. We're trying to fight the child's battles. I did a little bit of that, I will confess, when my girls were younger, and my mom would tell me, hey, listen, you can't fight their battles. You can't do, all of these things. And some things our children walk through, just like us when we were kids, there were some places that we walked through, some things that we went through that parents either weren't there, couldn't be there for whatever reason. So we had to walk on our own. What a helicopter parent tends to do is to rescue. And so when we rescue our children, we don't allow them to experience life. We don't allow them to experience consequences, even if the consequences mean that their little hearts are broken, or their feelings are hurt, or they're crying. And I see the quote that popped up in the chat, and that's my next point. You're absolutely right. It is a mixture. Right. So you may find yourself in here as being one, like having one being more predominant than the other, but it is a mixture. We do sometimes allow our children to have space. As my children get older, I have an 18 and a 21-year-old. I'm not parenting them the same way I did when they were 8 and 12. Right. So that even if I was a helicopter parent, then I've gotten a little bit better with that. But they do get to have more freedom, experience more consequences, and then the job becomes a little bit different. So we as parents grow with our children as our children grow as well. So I heard someone say that they were a mix. I'll tell you, mine initially was more authoritative. Right. So yes, I'm setting the standard. I want to let you know kind of where things are, and then I'm going to help you. Right. And I have a child. I'm going to tell you the answers to the test. If I tell you the answers, just do the answers, and you'll get it. But often you'll find, especially when we have multiple children, our parenting style may need to shift for those different children. You can go ahead and advance to the next slide. When we have these little people, and again, we're talking about our daughters today, but when we have these little people, sometimes we say that we see different posts on Facebook about who made you a parent, or who made you a mom, or who made you a dad. who made you a mom. They're your first child. They're your first experience. They're our first experience in this world of parenting. And so we often hear folks say, you've been with me from day one. And so really as a parent, it's not just a child that's growing up. You can go ahead and advance. It's not the child that's growing up. We're growing up as well. And so as they grow, we want to talk a little bit about what healthy mother-daughter relationship looks like. And these are some of the key characteristics that we need to find. One is that there's a secure attachment. Your kids feel safe. They feel safe, they feel nurtured, they feel loved. And there's a strong sense of attachment, that attachment piece that we spoke about earlier. And there's a sense that I want you to win. As my daughter, I want you to win. And sometimes where we get confused is I want you to win means that I'm going to step in and rescue and remove every obstacle that might cause you to fail. And so when we do that, our heart or our intentions may be, I want you to win, but we've not taught the child, we've not taught our daughters how to struggle. We've not taught our daughters how to survive. We've not taught our daughters how to deal with and how to handle difficult emotions. And so that's called distress tolerance. And sometimes as adults, we don't have it. So if we don't teach our children how to tolerate distress, when they get into tough situations, we crash out. When they get into difficulty with teachers, I'm not talking about abuse, but when we get into difficult situations with other adults, we don't know how to handle that. We don't know how to deal. And then the first thing that the kiddo does, I'm gonna call my mom, I'm gonna call my auntie, I'm gonna call my grandma, they're gonna be down here and ABC, XYZ. Right. And so then if ourselves as parents, grandmothers, aunties, neighbors, friends, whatever, if we haven't learned distress tolerance, we get there, we get to the school, we get to the cheer practice, we get to the track practice, and we crash out as well. And so then what happens? They don't want to deal with our child. They don't want to deal with me. And I'm on a couple boards in a couple schools, but they have my name and they have our name and our family name somewhere. Anybody named Edwards, anybody named Fulton, we're going to think twice about them. Right. So we have to be mindful of what that secure attachment is and how we allow our children to grow and how we allow them to experience difficulty by, again, supporting them through it. Right? Because we're probably all holding jobs or have held jobs at some point, and you don't always agree with your boss. You don't always like the things that you do, but we like the paycheck. We need the paycheck. So what we do is we learn how to tolerate. And you're absolutely right. There are some things that we will not tolerate, and that's okay too. But we have to teach our children how to negotiate and navigate difficult things. And we do that. The more secure our attachment is, the better we are able to teach that lesson for our girls. And it's also another issue is being reciprocal. Both mothers and daughters mutually support and respect each other's needs. Think about who you are as an individual now and who you were as a young girl growing up. You had emotional needs. Sometimes if you're stressed or if you're angry or you're feeling some type of way, you need a break. You need 5 minutes. And so as parents, as moms, we need to hear our daughters say, Mom, I need 5 minutes, or I can't talk about this right now, or can we talk about this later? And give that space. Because I know as a parent, when I need 5 minutes, I need 5 minutes. And if you interrupt my 5 minutes, not only are you not going to get what you need, but you're going to get it in a way that's not pleasant either. So if I know what my boundaries are, so I'll tell my children, I need 5 minutes. And so one of the things when my girls were young, I would come in the door from a full day of work, working with girls, working in the nonprofit sector, working in the community sector. So all of that stress, all of that stuff, and I'm coming right into the house and my kids haven't seen me for 8-10 hours at that day. So when they see me, hey, mommy, I love you, da, 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 they want to tell me all about their day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't take this right now. Not because I don't love my children, not because I don't want to hear about their day, but I had to figure out a way to dump all the other stuff so that I could be present for them. So as they got older, I was able to say, give mommy 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And then after that 10-minute mark, we come back to the living room or we go wherever we're going and do whatever. Tell me all about it. I want to hear. I want to know. And as my children were even younger still, when I couldn't say to them and they couldn't understand what 10 minutes meant, from the time I got in my car after work until the time I got home, if it was music, if it was talking to somebody, I needed to do whatever I needed to do to bring myself down from my day so my children were not getting that stress. And it's reciprocal because now as they're older, when they're coming in from school, when they're coming in from work and I haven't seen them all day and I want to, well, what's this? Did you do this? Did you do that? Give it a minute. Give it a pause. When my kid was in kindergarten, she used to say, catch a bubble. Give it a couple of minutes, whatever fits you and your family, but a couple of minutes before we jump in. Make it reciprocal. We are role models, whether we want to be or not. So what are we modeling? Are we modeling positive behaviors? Are we modeling negative behaviors? Are we modeling, you know what, honey, I'm in this, I'm giving you the best that I got. And this is the best that I have right now. And so right now, I don't have, I don't know if you guys ever, if your parents ever told you, my mother would say, we don't have money, I don't have McDonald's money, or I don't have money for that, right? So as a parent, I understand what that means. Then I didn't understand because the lights were on, we had food. So if you got money for all this, why don't you have money for McDonald's? Or why don't you have money for this? So how do we teach our kids how to balance and budget their time, their money, everything that's about them, even their friendships, right? Everything that they see us do, whether they like it, understand it or not, we are modeling for them. And so again, the weight of parenting is challenging. And so one of the things that we talked about, open communication is essential and as many ways as possible, to have that, and as many ways as is age appropriate to have it with our children. We need to have open communication and let them know where we are. And that lets them know that, hey, my voice matters too. So if I end up in a relationship where my partner doesn't want to hear what I have to say or constantly shuts me down, no, I learned from a young age that this thing is reciprocal. And if I'm having a bad day or my partner is having a bad day, it's okay to ask for space. And that space should be granted. And what is a reasonable time for you and your partner, for us and our children? What's a reasonable time for space? Because sometimes it might have to be, oh, one of my children's name is Kennedy. Okay, Kennedy, I'll give you your 10 minutes. But if we've reached 2.5 hours and I still haven't seen your face or haven't heard from you, I'm knocking on the door. Hey, sweetheart, how's it going? I know you were a little stressed or you were going through some things when you came in. Is everything okay? Just to check in. And if she's still not ready to talk about it, okay, but keep your eye on it. Right? Because think about you as a person. When you're having a tough time, I may not be ready to talk about it now. I may not be ready to deal with it now. But when that person that you care about, whether it's your partner, whether it's your child, whether it's a friend, says, hey, just checking on you. I know you weren't ready to talk a little bit ago, but just letting you know I'm here. Even if you're still not ready to talk, that being said to you matters. And that's where we get into emotional support. Right. I don't do the mini me thing. So even though I have daughters, I don't have any sons, but even though I have daughters, I don't do the mini me. There are things that are like me, sure. And there are things that are distinct and their own. So if I only see that child as a mini me, I don't allow her to develop her own personality because I see everything that she does in the context of how I did it or how I would do it. And she's not me. She may have some ways that are like mine, some good, some bad, some challenging, but she's not me. She's her own individual. So when we allow them to be who they are and develop as their own individuals, these are some of the 4 things that can help. These are the 4 things that can help us guarantee that we'll see that in the same way. We can go ahead and advance to the next slide. All right, and then I do see some things popping up in the chat and we'll come back to them in a second. So please keep dumping things in there. So by the time we get to the end, we can talk about these things a little bit more. I wanna just briefly talk about some of the things that cause our relationships to be strained. Right? Remember that beautiful baby we saw a couple slides ago and we were nurturing to them, we were loving to them, we were kind to them, we bathed them, we clothed them, we dressed them like baby dolls and things like that. We were proud and happy, to be a part of their lives. And even if some folks have had the occasion to deal with postpartum depression, right? And you've had the fortune to come out of that scenario, out of that situation or out of that space and in a space now where you're learning to love your kid and you're learning to know them and love them for who they are. These are some of the things that can challenge those relationships. Poor boundaries. We become combative, right? Sometimes as parents, well, wait, yeah, I had this baby, but I still want to do me. My life ain't over. I still want to A, I still want to be X, Y, and Z. And so now this child has become a hindrance to that. And that's something that you would never allow yourself to consciously say, but subconsciously, that's where some of the combat comes in. That's where some of the conflict gets in because I want to do this and I can't do this because now you're here. I can't do this because now you're a part of my life. So in order to do me and be a parent, because they are different, right? Some of the things that I would do as me are not some of the things that I would do as a parent. There is a difference. And so if I don't have poor boundaries and our relationship becomes enmeshed, that's a problem. If I become combative, if I'm dismissed, yeah, okay, whatever. All right, yeah, just go. All right, fine. You know, I had a hard day. I ain't got time for this today. Go on, do what you got to do. Okay. And so when we become dismissive, right, we're taking care of us. But what's the message that that's communicating to her? You're not important to me right now. You're not important enough for me to deal with me so that I can be present for you. And other ways that we try to mitigate that, we can become excessively controlling. I got rules, yes, in my house, dishes, chores, all of that. Yes, I have expectation for how you speak to me, right? But no, I'm not controlling your life. No, I'm not controlling every aspect of who you are. Being too self-involved, you know what, y'all, listen, this is about me. This girl, she's 18. You're an adult now. What? Figure it out. Right. And sometimes even 12-year-olds, even 8-year-olds, even whatever, we give so much more authority or more power to them than they're really ready to handle. And we didn't do an age check about the meeting, but you don't become your brain doesn't fully develop into adulthood until the age of 35. So imagine giving an 8-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 4-year-old the power to direct and guide their whole lives when they physiologically do not have the capacity to make healthy choices or to make sound, concrete decisions that consider consequences. They don't have the ability to do that. Yet we're giving 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 15-year-olds carte blanche to decide their lives. And again, narcissism is one where, I'm exploiting what my daughter is good at or who they are because I want the game. I want to be the one. Oh, poor me. Oh my goodness. Oh, well, my daughter, da, 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 da. And it's not about them. It's not poor me. How can I help my daughter be better? How can I improve our relationship? It's poor me. Give me attention. Give me attention. There's a difference. You see the difference? We have those poor me moments. I have them. I've had them. And so in those poor me moments, what do you do with it? Do you seek help? Do you seek support and guidance? Do you refresh yourself so you get back in there for round two? Or is it about, you know what? Give me all the attention. Give me all the attention. That tells us where we are on that spectrum. It's important to have constructive feedback or constructive criticism, but if I'm constantly criticizing, if I'm constantly telling you, why are you wearing that? Why do you look like that? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? It doesn't give the child the opportunity to experience who she is because she becomes constantly worried about how you're going to think, what you feel. They should be concerned about how their parents feel, yes, but not to the point, not to their detriment, not to the point that they don't move until you say move, not to the point that if you ever had those kids that you ask a question and before they can answer it, they look back to see whatever parent is in the room before they answer to see how you want them to answer. We can also be absent. We can be physically present in the home and emotionally unavailable. And I don't know if any of you have had that kind of parent in your lives. I've had that kind of parent in my life, and it's like my mother was there. She loved me. Of course, she loved me. How did I know? I had a house, I had food, I had clothes, I had good Christmas gifts under the tree, but she never said, I love you. She showed me, but she never said the words. And I was one of those little bad kids who, I had a smart mouth and I said what I wanted to say when I wanted to say it. And so I would write journals and things like that. And a time before I went off to school, she found a journal and I had put that in the journal. And so she and my sister had found it. And so they confronted me on it and then we began to talk about it. But it was one of those things that when I became a parent, I told my children every day, multiple times a day, love you. We hang up a phone call, love you. And it got to the point where if I didn't say I loved you, especially when they were going off to school, I felt bad. I felt guilty because I needed them to know going out into the world that there was somebody in their corner. And even today, when I have arguments with my kids and whatever, and we leave before we say, I love you, personally, I pray and I say, God, please forgive me. Let her know that I love her, because I don't want to send them out into the world, even especially after we've had a difficult conversation or we've had an argument and they, for some reason, think that I'm not in their corner. Good, bad, or indifferent, I'm always in their corner. So, and then there's a mismatch where my daughters feel like I don't understand them. They don't understand me. So there's that mismatch. And then similar to controlling, and you can go ahead and advance to the next slide. Similar to controlling, we have those parents who are domineering. So what happened, right? I think this might be a little bit out of order, but we'll go on with it. What happened to that relationship? How did they become, how did we become estranged? How did some of these things begin? We had this such a close bond and now we seem so far apart. Can you go ahead and advance to the next slide for me? These are the kind of things that get in the way, excuse me, of our relationships. If you can go ahead and advance, we have unresolved trauma as parents. We have unresolved trauma. We may be dealing with things. We may stay in relationships. If I grew up without a dad, maybe I'm desperately trying to seek, I'm desperately going through relationships with men who I'm not compatible with, but if nothing else, my daughter is going to have a dad. Does that really have to do with her or the relationship I'm in or my unresolved trauma? Or, you know, I'm becoming that helicopter parent, or I'm that domineering parent because I knew what I was doing when I was 13, 14, and don't be coming back here with no babies. That's my issue that I'm then projecting onto her. And also poor boundaries. Even as my children are older, I have an 18 and a 21-year-old, I'm still not your friend. We are more friendly, right? Our boundaries are a little bit different, but I'm not your friend. And so it's important for us to, in my household, it's important for us to keep that boundary, because then if I have to flip the switch and become mom, right? And I have to be, just be mom. I have to, if that requires being authoritarian, if that requires going up to the school, if that requires doing what it is, then I need that boundary to be respected. So when we try to be our children's friends, right, in terms of being equal, that usually doesn't work. And that's usually an indication of poor boundaries because we're not equal. Poor communication. We may have our own mental health issues. We may have different values and different lifestyles, and also different expectation, and then also emotional indifference. I'm in my own stuff. And I haven't dealt with, I don't have a place to deal with me. And that doesn't necessarily have to be therapy. Therapy is a great place for it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be therapy. It can be the relationships that we keep, right? Something that helps you to continue to be a whole person, and to deal with the stuff, the bad day, from the bad day at work to the trauma, to my child has a completely different lifestyle now than I have. Oh my goodness, how am I going to deal with this? Because she's a person first. And when we love her from a person first, then we can tackle everything else that might come along with that. I'm going to stop talking now. I know I said a lot, but I'm going to allow Ms. Kelly to jump in and talk about how we then restore, rebuild, and heal some of those relationships that we have with our children. Ms. Kelly.
Could you move the slideshow? Thank you very much, Ms. Ingrid. That was some really good stuff. I learned a lot from what you just shared. Thank you so much. I enjoyed that parenting styles and kind of looking and finding myself in the list. That was amazing. And I love the chats. Keep the information coming. Keep the questions coming in the comments. We're appreciating your interaction. So as I move on to the second half of our conversation today, we're talking about healing, restoring, and building those healthy relationships. So I think we would definitely want to start with incorporating the love languages. Most of us are familiar with the love languages, but for those of you who are not familiar with the love languages, basically it's said that we all can pretty much fall into 5 different categories. We have the category of receiving gifts. That's how we feel loved and appreciated. We have the category of acts and services. Others feel appreciated, noticed. We have quality of time. We have the physical touch, and we have words of affirmation. So those are the 5 categories we each pretty much fall into. And what you may notice is you may have a combination love language. It may not just be one, it may be a couple of those, and that's fine as well. But knowing your child's love language is critical because that helps you to know how to relate to your child, how to meet their needs, and how to make them feel seen, loved, and valued. And it's also is equally important that you know your own love language because you want that to be reflected back towards you. To be the best parent you can be, you have to have your needs filled as well. Most interestingly, in my household, just a couple of days ago, I was actually out in the evening doing a Gwen's Girls parent meeting, and I had given my children some tasks to do before I returned home. So when I came back that evening, I noticed the grass wasn't cut. That was one of the things I asked to be done. I noticed the dishes weren't done, and I noticed my living room TV was on and blasted, and no one was in there. So immediately I'm like, roar. So I went and got my telephone. I have a family text, a group text. So I just sent out to them. My love language was absolutely not met this evening. As I saw the things that I asked you to do, they weren't done. But your love languages were all met. Someone asked me for money for a haircut. That was left on the table. Someone else asked me to prep dinner because I put seasonings in better than they felt they did. Someone else asked me to leave something out for them, a charger for their cell phone because theirs weren't working. So I met all of their needs. And I think that's important because no sooner than I sent that text out, it could have been maybe like 3 minutes. I hear a lawnmower, I hear dishes, I mean, so they understood it. You have to reciprocate. So it's a two-way street with that love language, but it's very important to know your child's love language and for them to know yours as well. Moving on to prioritize open communication, it's just what it says. I mean, we're being open, we're being honest, we're being candid, and we're doing it in a respectful manner. As the parents, we do have a lot of that power in the home, so we want to make sure that we yield it properly. We don't want to, we don't want to push things on them. We want to have more conversations, more discussions, and if it's age appropriate, we want to get out their way and let them do it. We want them to have those experiences, right? We don't want them to feel like they can't try their wings to fly because if we don't let them try those wings to fly, they'll never have the opportunity. And that's very hard as a parent because, we do have that wealth of knowledge and we kind of know the road they're going on and where it's going to take them. We want to stop them. But I promise you, if you have good communication, you'll have a better chance of slowing them down or even having them not take that path because they're willing to come to you and talk and discuss things, right? As they get a little older, we move into respecting their independence. And that can be challenging as well because again, you still have a wealth of knowledge. And as they're spreading their wings to fly, they're trying some things that are pretty scary. So you have to trust that you've put some really good things into them and that you're still keeping that line of communication open, but allowing them to be independent, allowing them to try some things. My daughter, she most recently became a driver, and I was very scared because the music and just how flighty kids can be and not tuned into what they need to be. And I was pretty scared. But I mean, it was that time for her to drive. So I had to just let go and say, you know how to follow the safety rules on the road. They've given you a license, so I'm giving you this automobile and I'm trusting that you'll be safe on the road. She came back home and she was very upset because she got lost and her navigation system wouldn't work. So she came back home very flustered, very upset and in tears. And, I said, well, you know what? I don't want to take the keys away, but I'm going to need you to find a place to be calm because you still need to have this independence, but you can't be unsafe. So if you feel like you're not ready and mature enough to be safe and be independent behind the car, let me know. And, we'll have to work some things out to get you to and from, but driving might not be for you right now. Well, I tell you, because we had that communication, she was able to keep her independence. She understood the way she acted was too flustered and it could have caused an accident. So, just having, to be brave enough to let them have that independence and have that space to grow and try new things is really important. Moving on, being present, being engaged. And I think we all might have challenges around this right now as we're in this virtual world. I know I have to force myself to put my telephone down sometimes when they're talking to me because I just want to check this and do that and send this and read this and even be on TikTok. That's bad, but I do. Sometimes I want that little fun time. So and they're sitting there and they want to talk to you. They want our attention. That's really really important to make sure they get that attention. So we have to really be cognizant of that. We're putting that phone down and we are focusing on our children and their needs. And if you give that time and take that time, you'll find they're going to be opening up and sharing things with you, and you're going to be finding out things you would never have found out otherwise. So that's a really important thing to do is really be engaged with them. Ask them questions, not prying questions, just general questions. How did your day go? What was fun today? What did anything crazy happen at school today? What were your teachers saying about the test? Did they say they're going to retest? Or, you're just having general general conversation. Sometimes you have to pull it out of them a little bit, but it can't be like you're prying. It has to be very natural in the conversation. And you'll get a lot of good information from them, right? A lot of good information. And as Miss Ingrid said earlier, we're role models whether we want to be or not. We are definitely role models. So we want to make sure that we are walking the walk. And that doesn't mean we're perfect because we're going to drop balls, we're going to make mistakes. But what it does mean, we have to own those mistakes and come back and look them right in their eyes and say, you know what? I dropped the ball. I could have did this differently. I could have said this differently, or I could have gave you another opportunity, or whatever you need to say to let them know that now you see a different path could have been taken on your behalf. And they really, really respect that. And when you're doing that, you'll notice they start coming back to you, taking that same tone. And they'll say, well, Mom, I know I should have done those dishes, and you did give me plenty of time to do them. So now that my video games are away or my cell phone's put away, I get it. I didn't do the right thing. I didn't make the best choices. So that really comes back full circle as well. So we want to be those role models because it makes us be the best version of ourselves, but also it gives them something to aspire to be as well, right? And Ingrid talked about mini me's, and interestingly enough, my daughter and I share the same exact birthday, okay? But I mean, we were two distinctly different people, and I definitely have to respect that in her, right? I definitely have to respect that in her. And there are some things that we share that are similar, but they're very few. So we're just distinctly different. And sometimes I think people want to put us in the same little category because our birthdays are, oh, I guess you're just this and that's your daughter, you're 20. We're not. And if you think about it, I mean, there's no worse kryptonite for a child than you to say they're exactly like your parent. Nobody wants to be like their parent, no matter how amazing your parent may be. Everyone wants to be seen for their own unique self. And that's important to recognize as well, right? We also want to encourage self-esteem and resilience. I think back to my core story with my daughter, that was definitely an opportunity for her to be resilient and rely on herself to get to and from. But if I'm being honest, she was definitely coddled a lot as a young person growing up. I definitely didn't let her do much. I was kind of there for her, supporting her and encouraging her and just, keeping her in a little safe box. So when it was time for her to go out and do big girl things, it was quite the challenge. So I can tell a cautionary tale that if you don't do it in the front end, you're going to pick it up on the back end. Because now I have that younger adult and I'm still holding hands when she could be out there flying strong. And I'm like, okay, did you think about this? And I'm still reminding her, and she's having to have that growth and that growth time. So it's really important to give them those opportunities that they can become resilient so that, when they're these young adults after high school and they're 18, 19, and their 20s, then they'll be able to do the things that we want them to do. And it will be a nice, smooth launch, right? So we want to also think about tough subjects. They always do come up. Many young people do not come to their parents with these tough subjects. Instead they'll go to their peers, they'll get it from the television, media, or they'll just kind of try to figure it out with the information they have themselves. Sometimes that might work out. They might have a friend who's on the right path, really bright, or they might have an uncle or aunt or someone that can kind of point them in the right direction. But more times than not, they get misinformation, or it's just a situation you could have been brought into to make it more simplified, and you don't have that option because you're so judgmental. And I'm very guilty of that. And I really, really try to watch that because, the first thing I want to say, why would you do that anyway? Or what did I tell you about that? I said that was going to happen. And that's not what they want to hear, right? I've got much better over the years, much better, but I still have to catch myself on it. So, I mean, if you're in that space that you feel like you're really coming down on them and you're being judgmental, it's okay. Let's just take a step back, take a look in the mirror, and just say, I can do it differently this time. And that's what I do. And most times I catch myself. Sometimes I don't, but most times I do catch myself. So if you're caught, if you're paying attention, you will see it come up, and you can catch yourself and make a better choice for your family. So that's really important too, not to be judgmental. I have a very close friend, and she had a teenage daughter, and her friends had, just kind of started to drive. So as they got these driver's license and they're on the road, her daughter was not a driver, but she was a passenger. So she was very, very afraid to have her daughter go out with these kids because of the drink and the drugs, or just, music blasted, whatever. So she said to her daughter, well, we're going to make this deal. We're going to make this pact. We're going to make it early on because you're starting to get in the car with drivers. And we're going to make the pact that there's going to be a no judgment. If you call me and say, this is a no judgment call, come pick me up, I will ask no questions and I will come pick you up. Now, if you could be that brave of a mother, put one in the chat. If you could just pick your child up without saying no questions and not badgering them on the way back home, not stay on the phone with me. What happened? Why? Who could do that? Put a one in the chat if could have been that mom. I don't know that I could have been, but I thought that was amazing. And she got 2 phone calls during her high school year where that system was put into place and utilized. She did not ask her daughter. She simply said, "I'm on my way," and she picked her up immediately. And it was late night, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So that really, it could have saved her from, being in a situation in a car accident. It could have saved her from being a rape victim. It could have saved her from doing something illegal. Who knows what they were getting ready to do? But just the fact she had that safety net, was able to utilize it and push that button, that was amazing. So if you're able to work something out like that with your daughter, that's a great place to be, and that's something you can put into place. And it could be for anything. It could be for school situations, or it could just be for anything that you want to give your daughter the opportunity to pull on you for support, but not have to answer many questions. Okay, so that's a really important thing too. The last thing I'm going to share is going to be creating rituals and routines. That's really a special time because that's being proactive instead of reactive. That is very special time. You can do numerous things with your daughters in your family. Just say, for example, something as simple as we do in my house. We do wing night. We all would go into the kitchen and have a recipe of how we're going to make these wings, and we would be in different areas of the kitchen hiding our recipes and not wanting anyone to see what we put in, and stirring it up, and we would make 1 dozen of wings each with our special recipe. And that became a ritual for us, and it's something we did often, and it was so fun. And I mean, when you think about it, I mean, your kitchen has pretty much the same ingredients, so when we're really making a big variation, not really. But it's just the fact it was a sequel. It's just the fact it was something different. The fact that yours is going to be better than mine, mine is better than yours. I won last time, so it was a lot of fun. So routines and rituals can be something small, something big. It's just something that your family enjoys doing. It doesn't have to cost a lot. It doesn't take a lot of time. We had to cook dinner anyway, so why not cook it together and compete? It was just fun. Another routine that I have is I like to at least once a month or once every other month set the table for a really fancy dinner just for myself and my children. And, I give them the big fancy wine glasses, and, you should see them drinking out of it. It's so funny because they don't want to break it because they don't want to see her mom come out, but they're drinking from these fancy glasses. We have a nice dinnerware out. We play jazz music. I mean, it's just a nice time. So they know, oh, she's setting the table. That's our ritual. She's making something fun. It could be tacos. It doesn't have to be a steak dinner. It could be anything. It's the fact the fancy dishes are out, the jazz music is on, we have candle lights. I mean, we just do it big. It's fun. So, I mean, those routines and rituals make a big difference too. So the small things go a long way. So I would like to encourage you not to just to think it's one thing or another thing. Anything you do, it's gonna benefit yourself, and it's gonna benefit your children. So I would encourage you to be creative, and I would encourage you to try numerous things. And the same thing might not work for one child or one family, so you can go back to the pot and try again, and it just continues to try things that make you happy, make your children smile, and just grow from those points. And I think you'll really see some wonderful results. We definitely can restore relationships that are already built by doing things like this, and we definitely can build new relationships from this place as well. So this can be something proactive, or it can be something to kind of do damage control if you feel like there's a relationship that you want to do some work on. So these are just some fun things to do, to spend time with your family, to kind of build, to kind of think about the way you're doing things, and do you want to do things differently, what's working, what's not working, and just kind of move from that point and grow. So please take some time and just think what works for you and your family, and just start to incorporate some things, and you'll be very pleased with the changes that you see. As we shared, we do not want to go over our time, but we did save a few minutes for questions or comments. So at this time, we're going to take a peek into the chat and see if there's any questions that we can answer for you guys, and we're going to answer those. And after we answer those questions, we are going to quickly send you to do a link for an evaluation. It's a very short evaluation. It's like 5 questions, maybe 5 or 6.